All right, for this lesson, we're going to pick up where we left off in the last lesson. And the last lesson, we were ordering positive rational numbers. Remember, we added fractions and decimals to our skill set of being able to order. And what we're going to add today is negative rational numbers. And we're going to see how to make sure we can put those numbers on number lines in the correct order. So let's go ahead and review the answers to the do now, and then we will get started. So you can go ahead and turn the page. So again, the do now, that point is negative 3/4, and just like we do with negative integers, we work backwards from 0. So -1, the next integer would be -2. But in the same way, we do fractions. So this would be -1/4, -2/4, and -3/4. And again, the key is knowing how many partitions to know what your denominator is. All right, let's take a look at a couple examples in the notes. In this first example, we're plotting a positive decimal and a negative decimal. So whenever we're plotting decimals, I think a real common thing to help is to divide your sections into 10 partitions. So between whole numbers, you want to divide that into 10. And again, just you can do that as carefully as possible, but it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to do my best here. So I know in the middle, if I mark off the middle, then I know each partition on each half has to be divided into 5 pieces. So I'm going to try to do that as best as I can. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, that's not so bad. I did okay with that. Let's do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to mark the middle, then divide each piece into fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we know that when we've divided it into tenths, in fractions it would be 1/10, but in decimals it would be 0.1, which is the same as 1/10, right? Because that's the 10th spot. So we're going to label each partition with its decimal, okay? So 0.6 and 0.7 and 0.8, 0.9, and then of course the last one is 1. And we're going to go backwards as well. So it works the same way, except it's going to be -0.1 and -0.2. And it's going to be crowded, so I'm not going to write every single one. Let's do -0.5, and we have -0.7 and -0.9. And of course, 6 and 7 are there in the middle. All right, so let's answer the question. Let's first do 0.15. Well, 0.15 is not one of our markings, one of our partitions. However, 0.15 we know is greater than 0.1, but less than 2. And in fact, it's right in the middle. So we can put a dot right in the middle of 0.1 and 0.2. So that's going to be 0.15. All right, what about the -0.7? Well, we do have that one, right? Because we have -0.1, -0.2, -0.3, -0.4, -0.5, -0.6, -0.7. So that one is right there. I'm going to put a big dot there. So the key idea here is that we are numbering backwards, kind of, when we go from 0 in the negative direction and forwards when we go from 0 in the positive direction. All right, let's turn to the next page, please. I want to do a couple more examples with you before I let you do some practice. So this next example says, which numbers represent the point on the number line below? So we're starting at 0. We are going backwards, -1, -2, -3. And note how many partitions between whole numbers. That key number that we need to think about is 3. And that means each represents a third. So we're going backwards, right? So this is -1/3. This is -2/3. And so on. So the question is, where is this dot? So if we have -1/3, -2/3, -3/3, -4/3, this is going to be -5/3 is one way to label that. So I'm going to write that down. All right, let's take a look at our answers, and you can see that B actually is -5/3. But as usual, we're going to have more than one answer. This is an improper fraction, so we have to figure out what it is as a mixed fraction. But normally we would divide this, but we could figure out it another way, I think. If we think of, well, here I'm at -1, and then added to the 1 is another 2/3. Let me say that again. We're up to -1, and then we add a 1/3 and another 1/3 to give us 2/3, which makes another answer C, -1 and 2/3. All right, let's take a look at example number 3. On the number line below, plot the points. And so this is a tricky problem because we have lots of different denominators. We have tenths we have to deal with. We have 5, we have 4. There's another tenth, that'll be good. So I'm going to think about how I want to do this. So I'm going to do -3/4 first. So that's not 1. It's going to be between 0 and 1. So I'm going to partition this into 4 pieces. So let me go ahead and do that. So I'm going to divide it in half, and then divide it in half again. That gives me 4 pieces. And as I go away from 0, I have -1/4, -2/4, and -3/4. And there's the point that I'm interested in. Okay, so we've knocked that one off. All right, how about 0.4? So that's a positive number. And like I said, when we're dealing with decimals, it's best to partition in tenths. So between 0 and 1, I'm going to divide that into tenths. So similar to how we did it last time, I'm going to divide it in half and then divide each piece into fifths as best I can. That was pretty good. All right. So I'm doing 4.4, which is 4/10. So here's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10. Okay, so I'm gonna put a dot there, and even I'm gonna label that as 0.4. That's also 4/10. Then I also have 1/10. Well, that's an easy one. That's just one partition away from 0. So that's 1/10, but that's also 0.1. And then we have -1 and 2/5. So the fact that that -1 is there to begin with means we are going beyond 1, and we have to go 2/5 beyond 1. So that means I need to partition this space between -1 and -2 into fifths so I can figure out how far 2/5 is. So watch how I do that. I'm going to take this into fifths as best I can. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not too bad. So here's my -1, and then I need another 2/5, which is going to take me to that point right there. So there's my -1 and 2/5. Again, I'm going, there's 1, and then 1/5, and 2/5 is my total distance from 0. All right, so moving on, you can go to the next page, please. I'm going to do the first one for you, and then I'd like you to do 2, 3, and 4 on your own. So the first one says partition into 6 equal pieces. That's important information. And then you got to label each partition. And so this note is going from 0 to -1. But let's do the partition first. And I'm going to divide it in half, first of all. But I need 6, so that means I need 3 in this half and 3 in this half. So I'm going to do that as best I can. That's not too bad. And here, and here. And now I'm going to label this. So starting at 0, to the left I have -1/6, and then -2/6, and then -3/6, -4/6, -5/6, and you could call the last one -6/6 if you want, which is the same as 1. So what I'd like you to do now is to pause the video and do 2, 3, and 4, and then come back and check your answers. All right, check out these answers. Make sure they didn't trick you on number 4, which was going from 0 to 1, not in the negative direction. And see if you got something different, and if you did, then see if you can figure out where you might have gone wrong. All right, you can go ahead and turn to the next page. All right, I'm going to do number 1 for you, and then let you try 2 through 5 on your own. So the first problem says mark the location of 1 and 2/6. That's a positive number, so I need to go starting at 0. There's my 1. And then, I should, just to confirm, count the partitions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I am partitioned into 6. So that's a good thing. So again, I go 1, and I need another 2/6, right? So because there's an extra 1/6 and then another 1/6, so that gives me a total of 2/6. So I'm going to put a dot on that point. Okay, and I'm going to label it as 1 and 2/6. All right, so I want you to pause the video and do 2 through 5, and then come back and check your answers and see how you did. All right, go ahead ahead and check your answers, see if you marked the correct spot, and if you did not, see if you can figure out where you might have gone wrong. All right, go ahead and turn to the next page, please. All right, I'm going to let you work on these problems on your own, and so pause the video, complete this page, and then come back and check your answers. All right, check out these answers, especially the ones where you had to create your own number line, see how you did with that. And if you're not sure where some of these answers came from, ask a neighbor or let me know and I can give you a hand. All right, go ahead and turn to the next page, please. So quickly do these two problems, pause the video for a second, and then check back and see if you got the correct answer. All right, there are the answers for those two problems. And again, let me know if you had any issues with those. So go ahead and go to the next page where you have the video assessment. So go ahead and do this assessment on the page I provided, and then on the back of this page also is a challenge problem. I want you to complete that as well. And when you finish those, you can turn those in and then get started on your homework. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.